Well, I just believe because the benchmark has ascended to a position where if you want to be taken seriously as a litigator, it's just the place to be. And I would say that's the something I'm proudest of is having taken it to that position. Pretty much single-handedly. I mean, obviously, it takes a village.
Welcome to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc., where we feature experts in growth and brand visibility for law firms and architecture, engineering, and construction firms. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Calcote King. I'm your host, and I'm the principal and president of Reputation Inc. We're a public relations and marketing agency for B2B professional services firms, including law firms. To learn more, go to rep-inc, that's Inc with a K.com. So behind every legal ranking is a person reading your submissions, conducting interviews, and making those judgment calls about who deserves recognition. And for Benchmark Litigation, that person is Michael Rafalowich, managing editor and head of research. This actually isn't Michael's first time in our guest seat. We talked to him about the process of ranking law firms a few years ago, and I'm really thrilled to have you back to share his insider perspective heading into Benchmark Litigation's 2026 cycle. So thanks for joining me, Michael.
My pleasure. Nice to be back.
Yeah.
And I think it was
I'm
about
excited.
5 years ago now. And just a minor adjustments to that. It's actually the 2027 research cycle.
Oh, 2027. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you for that correction.
We are a year ahead because by the time the content is dated a year ahead because by the time it's issued, it's going to be late October. So it's really for a 2027 reader.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, for people who maybe aren't as acquainted with Benchmark Litigation, do you mind giving us just a quick overview of what Benchmark does and what makes it unique in the space?
Not at all. Well, in its simplest form, it's a study that's focusing on identifying and documenting the leading litigators and their respective entities in the U.S. and Canada. And how it's unique is that, to my knowledge, we are the only resource that's fulfilling this niche. It's our exclusive beat. It always has been. And I believe that we still kind of dominate that field exclusively. Now, we've since expanded to the Asia Pacific region, which I actually started quite some time ago, but have since turned over to our Hong Kong team, who's been managing it since then. And we recently launched in Europe, which is
that's exciting.
Bit ironic because the company was for a long time owned by Europeans when the UK was part of Europe. I don't have any direct involvement in that beyond setting the template for the person who's researching it to follow or riff off of, depending on whatever revisions might be warranted for that market. So that's in its simplest terms, that's what it is. It's really just a resource and a utility for the business of litigation. So we are assessing the disputes resolution market as a business.
Fantastic. So you already answered my second question. I was going to ask how Benchmark has evolved over the years, and you mentioned the expansion into Europe and Asia. What about this year? Is there anything new this year?
There's a lot new this year, actually. So in terms of how the publication has evolved, well, number one, it's no longer a publication. We're no longer offering a print version. It's now exclusively digital content, which has been a long time coming. Some people did appreciate the print version as well, as it was a committed hard copy, and it was just kind of a nice. It was nice to have in their reception areas, and it was good for bragging rights and so forth. But as far as I know, it could have made a nice doorstop as well. unfortunately, it has become too labor intensive and too cost prohibitive to justify satisfying just that minority group. So we're actually now known that the proper nomenclature now for what we do is an intelligence platform. So that aside, we have expanded the reach, like I said, from the U.S. into Canada. Now we're officially on a global scale. And specific to this year, we're actually going to be offering a more granular overview of certain distinct metro areas within certain states.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the aim here is to provide a more fair and balanced platform for firms and their respective personnel to be judged against really kind of their who are actually their peers, as opposed to the broad statewide analysis, which might cause them to get overlooked, underappreciated, kind of unfairly lumped in with just such a big crowd that they don't really have an opportunity to stand out for being dominating in a particular local jurisdiction or a regional jurisdiction. So we're doing that this year with certain select states, like for instance, Pennsylvania's one.
Okay.
So, it's dominated by two markets, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And, in the past, perhaps the Pittsburgh firms might have been a bit overlooked just simply because Philly's just bigger and more dense. And obviously, there are other states that kind of warrant this as well. So North Carolina's another one that we've expanded into this year, going a bit more analyzing the Charlotte market versus the Raleigh market because they are distinct. And oftentimes these players, they just don't cross over. They don't run into each other. So eliciting peer review on them is more challenging when you're not taking a deep dive into that specific region because it might be hard if the amount of interviews that you're conducting in any particular year is just more balanced towards the firms that happen to be concentrated in Charlotte. They're not going to necessarily be able to offer me the kind of commentary that we need to generate intel on firms in, let's say, the Raleigh market. And so we've made more of a play this year into expanding that. So there are a few states we'll be doing that in. Texas is one. California is the most obvious, and that's actually one that we have done in the past. We made a go of that actually for several years until COVID kind of put that on ice, and I was no longer able to travel out there for a few years. And without kind of looking at the market close up, it's very difficult to assess who's who. Yeah. So you kind of really need to immerse yourself in that market. But it's been a few years now, and travel is back on. So I was out in San Francisco this past August, and I am anticipating being in more California markets this year, as well as some of the other ones that I referenced. So that's new. Okay. And we introduced it actually last year, and it generated some interest, but not enough to really kind of extrapolate on it to the degree that we wanted to. And I feel like this year we will have better luck with it, just because we started off the research period really kind of making a push for this in the webinar we hosted, and this is also kind of unprecedented. We're starting the year with not one, but two other staffers beside myself. Yeah, big news.
Yeah.
So that
we have a team.
We do. So that in itself, I feel will facilitate that ambition.
Yeah. So what does the more local coverage mean for firms? Does it mean that those firms that have more local practices might see better rankings, or what does that mean for them?
Well, in some cases, it'll help them see rankings at all.
Right. Okay.
Because if you're in the past, if you're, let's say, a state like California or Texas, big, dense, a lot of lawyers in these markets, just a lot of litigators. If you were smaller and more sort of concentrated in one particular metro area in those states, the chances are, you might have just been overlooked. Just simply because we didn't have, we just were not going that granular before, and we also just kind of didn't have the infrastructure and the mechanisms to do so. This year we're really providing a lot of incentive, and just putting the word out there that, hey, look, we are looking to probe deeper into these areas, and we are looking to find out about, we're looking to discover these firms that really just kind of might have been hiding in the folds of, hiding in the shadows of much larger firms in much larger metro areas. And so when we compiled, let's say, a California ranking, a Texas ranking, these firms just might have not have been considered enough statewide players to warrant a mention. By going a bit more local, we are providing them with a potential platform to be highlighted, whereas they might not have before. And if they already are highlighted, it gives them a little bit more of an edge, so that they're not kind of getting just like a teaspoon in the ocean. They're getting a lot more kind of real estate, hopefully. That's the ambition. So, and I believe, we stand a better chance of succeeding this year, because, like I said, we've got, there's more incentive to do so, and we put out the word about this, and we've actually got the infrastructure to manage it.
Great. And you're now having an expanded team. Does that mean you're able to do more in-person interviews? What does that mean for firms? Will they see you or other people out and about more, or what will that mean for firms?
Well, hopefully all of the above. There's obviously there's a certain level of desk work that has to be done remotely. In the past, I've had to do it all. I've had to do that, and I've had to be front facing and go out and develop these relationships and do business development and just, introduce the Benchmark, but, just be the ambassador for the brand in certain markets that, some of them have been repeats, but others have been introductory ones that have had no exposure to us in the past. And this year, with the expansion ambitions that I elaborated upon a little earlier, that is the goal, that I will actually be able to get out to these markets and say, hey, listen, I'm here to learn more about, the Austin, Texas market, because I feel like it's probably, you're probably not getting, you're not getting the platform. And it's part of it is because I haven't been here yet to really, I haven't been here yet to really discover about you, and haven't had a chance to really pound the pavement the same way that I have in, let's say, Houston or Chicago or San Francisco, New York, obviously. That's ideally, that's the ambition. And now that I have two actual team members to do more of the remote interviews, and to do a lot more of just kind of building the database, that's the ambition, that I will have a lot more face time.
That's great. So this to me leads me to suspect that there is more and more demand from firms. Is that true? How have firms engaged with you? How has that changed over the years? Are you seeing firms valuing, being ranked in Benchmark more than they have in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. We're overwhelmed. That's really why, we've been hamstrung in the past from expanding the way that we're looking to this year. Just like I said, we just didn't have the infrastructure, and there's just only so much that one person can physically manage. the demand has just grown tenfold pretty much since I started. Like I said, it's really difficult to keep up with, and I think that was kind of one of the triggers for the expanding into these kind of, I don't want to say secondary markets, but just kind of markets that perhaps have been underserved by us in the past, is because a lot of times if a questionnaire or an inquiry came through from a firm that I'd never heard of before, there wasn't really the time to or like I said, the head count really to do a deeper dive and find out, who is this firm? What it was basically just, look, I've had numerous conversations with partners in Texas. I've never heard of this firm before. We can't cover them. That is not necessarily, that's something that we're looking to hopefully correct. Not all of them are going to warrant being mentioned, but we want to try to soak up more of this demand because it keeps coming. And that's something that you have to wrestle with when this demand is the way it is. A lot of them are going to be from firms that you just never heard of before. And the fact of the matter is, just the fact that you haven't heard of them doesn't mean that they're not legit and that they don't deserve another look. So, I mean, but definitely.
What do you think's driving that demand? Sorry to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. Well, I just believe because Benchmark has ascended to a position where if you want to be taken seriously as a litigator, it's just the place to be. It's something you want to be associated with, and I would say that's the something I'm proudest of, is having taken it to that position, pretty much single-handedly. I mean, obviously it takes a village, and I've had help over the years from other stakeholders within the company that's provide me with kind of marketing outreach and web development and so forth. But I've been the only constant since day one. And I've been the manager of the research, and I've been the manager of the whole enterprise pretty much from a research and editorial capacity since day one. So over the course of that time, I've just managed to build this into a utility that is at the table with any of our other larger and more historically advanced peers, or I should say historically entrenched peers. So I think at this point it's just become a very credible source, and the word is out there that if you are involved in litigation and disputes, that this is the place you want to be. Because this is our exclusive beat. I think particularly litigation is, it's an interesting business. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be a need for it, but I think I view it, and I'm viewing it through the lens of litigators themselves. I feel like there's a notion that litigators are more appreciated than loved. I think a lot of times they're just viewed as the ambulance, which you always hope you don't need, right? But the reality is everybody needs one, and you're really happy to have it there once you do need it. And so I think litigators, in a lot of cases, they are just the less celebrated personnel within a law firm, which I think just enhances the tenor of the message that they're trying to put out there, which is, hey, listen, we are a vital part of the legal community. We are something that you really can't exist without. Right. You may want to hope that you don't ever need us, but you will need us. And that said, I think a resource like ours that focuses exclusively on giving these people a platform and their respective entities a platform, it just becomes the need for it just becomes that much more pronounced, and the desire to be recognized there just becomes that much more pronounced.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get into the submissions process. What are some of the most common questions you hear from firms about how they should do their submissions?
About how they should do the submissions.
Or in general, what questions do you get the most?
Well, the most common question that I used to get asked was, where do we get our information? These days, the answer to that question, I think, has largely been satisfied by the audience. They've all since come to understand where we get our information. So these days, I feel like the most common question I get is, firms will ask me a lot, how do we improve our standing? Is there anything we need to do differently? If so, what? I would say that's kind of the number one. And then, interestingly enough, too, I'm also getting asked a lot, how do you view us? Is there anything you would suggest to help us improve our image and our standing? And I try to impress upon these people. Look, I'm a reporter. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that I'm I don't know that I'm going to be the oracle on how to burnish your image. But they say, well, but you talk to all these people. You just kind of have all this intel. You have a knowledge bank that's almost akin to a consultant, and I say, okay, well, that's a separate conversation if you want to make me a consultant. But at present, I'm sitting as a third party reporter who's assessing your firm's standing. So in terms of how I can help you improve your image, it can pretty much only be through the canon of Benchmark, I think the question about how do you improve your standing, I mean, sometimes there are just, the firms have done all they can. They've given me a very thorough and fulsome submission. They've gotten everything in on time, and sometimes improving your standing is just, it's out of your hands, really. It's up to the market. It's up to the clients. How do they view you? Do they view you? Are your peers noticing you in the market? Because one side of the story is obviously going to be yours, and then the other side of the story is going to be your visibility in the market, and all of that plays vital roles into how we report on you, and how we cover you, and how you get ranked. So sometimes, there's literally nothing you can do that guarantees a better ranking. Sometimes it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of recruiting. It's a matter of market perception. It's a matter of, your achievements taking time to sort of filter out to the market and reverberate out to the, sometimes it is just a matter of waiting. But I would say, that's probably the biggest one that I get asked these days is, what should I be doing differently? Is there anything with our questionnaire that could have been done differently? And very often the answer is no. The firms have done everything fine. Sometimes they get it in a little bit late, which gives it, a little less time to work for them. But I would say 9 times out of 10, there's nothing that someone's doing, wrong with their questionnaire.
Well, so what are some of those? You said most of the time they aren't doing anything wrong, but are there mistakes that you often see that are kind of the easy things to improve, or what are those tips that, or common mistakes you see firms getting wrong that could be an easy improvement for them?
A common one that I've seen, actually, it's not that common, but it's one that I definitely have observed in the past, which leads to awkwardness, is for political reasons. internal dynamics. Firms will they'll tell us about a particular representative file or a case, some representative work that they're involved in, and the team members, we're always soliciting the names of the key partners, the lead or leads, and they will often. Well, like I said, not so often anymore, but it's just something I have observed in the past. They will list individuals as the leads who are not really the leads, but it's something that's just kind of their name appears on the final at the top of the brief, and for political reasons and for just it's a client desire reasons. But the actual legwork, lead arguments, etc., there are other individuals other than the ones who are being listed as the leads. And the way I find out about this sometimes is, it's a bit awkward. You'll be having a conversation with another member of the team, and you'll mention, so I see you were part of the team who was on this case led by so-and-so, and they'll say, well, actually, no, I was the lead on that. It's kind of just part of our firm policy that they have to put this person as the lead. And so my advice is always, don't do that if at all possible, just because I have no choice but to take your word as gospel when you send that kind of information. I'm not going to, I don't have the time, and I certainly, just have no way of second guessing if the content that you're putting there is actually accurate. So I would say that's the biggest mistake. The other phenomenon that I've witnessed a lot is, which isn't necessarily a mistake, it's just an unrealistic. It's just an unrealistic approach, and you could argue maybe a lazy approach, but also I do understand and sympathize with those who are up against internal dynamics at firms. But they'll just basically list their entire team as being worthy of coverage. And sometimes this can be between 50 and 100 individuals. I can guarantee you can take the biggest national firm in the country. They do not have 100 members of their litigation staff referenced by us. It's just an unrealistic expectation. But these people who are in the position of fulfilling these, they're just covering their bases. So they're saying, look, I put everybody in there. I told them about all the members of this team, whoever Benchmark chose to cover and not cover. I mean, that's on them. They have to answer for this. And that's true. But you will get a lot more, you'll be less disappointed if you calibrate your expectations from the get-go. And you also might save yourself a bit of work, depending on how much of an administrative burden it is on you to fulfill all those names. Now, if you're just kind of doing a content dump and just, plugging in all these names and it takes no time at all, that's different, I guess. But if you're literally having to sit there and tie these names to some kind of, achievement throughout the questionnaire, or just, come up with some kind of spin content on them to plug in why we should recognize them. I mean, you could be saving yourself a whole lot of hassle if you just really did a more honest internal assessment and just say, look, here's who we view this year as being our most credible players. We have to whittle this down at a certain point just to, like I said, align these with the expectations that we have. You've got to be realistic about this. So, yeah. And like I said, that's not necessarily an error. It is just kind of it's kind of a way of letting yourself off the hook, and sort of passing the buck to us. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have to, like I said, you have to be realistic with your expectations of the outcome. The only other error that I would say I've witnessed is that if something's confidential, whether it's wholly or partly, you need to relay that to us, because otherwise we view it as being fair game to reference, and it's led to a couple of hot mess situations where we publish something and we get contacted by someone's personnel at the firm who says that was supposed to be confidential, and of course that's going to ring alarm bells to me. That is the one genuine mistake that we can make. And I advise all staff of this, and it's kind of the very first thing I look for is just look for the confidentiality field. If it's populated, when in doubt, just leave it out. And it's something that I always look for. But sometimes the confidentiality question will be a no. It's not confidential, it's public. So that's the assumption that we go with. And then we'll publish it. And sometimes it actually isn't confidential, but it is a client sensitivity issue. And so there'll be sometimes a panicked email or call that we have to take. And they'll say, that was supposed to be confidential. And, immediately, like I said, the alarm bells will go off and I'll check. I say, okay, well, let me look into this. I do apologize if we overlooked that, but then I'll refer to the questionnaire, and it turns out that no, we didn't. It wasn't marked confidential. So the onus actually is on them to do that. So that is the other genuine mistake, and I would say that's probably the biggest. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and it's definitely egg on the face for all involved.
Yeah. So are there characteristics of a great submission? And I'm thinking things like, number of cases they've listed, or how they're written, the type of information they include. Is there anything that really stands out to you that makes a really well done submission?
Well, it's not a numbers game. And I feel that that's something that I need to emphasize, because I think a lot of people still view it like that. Like if we just flood them with so much content, it's going to really speak to kind of just how active we are and how visible and so forth. That's not really obviously you want to make it fulsome and comprehensive enough so that it actually speaks to the breadth of practices that are associated with various practitioners. And, you do obviously want to illustrate how involved they are. But I think, the smarter way to go about it and the more effective way to go about it so that it makes more of an impact on us is obviously, you want to take what you would view as your banner matters for the year and put them in the pole position. And you would really kind of want to prioritize that all the way down, focus on the individuals who are leading them, like I said, be honest, just tell the truth. And obviously let us know who's a member of the team. But, the lead partners have to be assigned accordingly. And really, when you get into the summary of what actually transpired, just be clear about everything. I would avoid too much legal jargon. I've had the advantage of sitting adjacent to this industry for a long time now, so I know how to talk the talk a bit, and I know the nomenclature. But the reality is, another member of the staff might not, because, like I said, none of us are lawyers. We're all just journalists, and we're trying to do this fast. When we get those submissions coming in on the due date, needless to say, we're flooded for the next week. And we're just going to be, going through and reviewing these. We're trying to do so expeditiously. So the less content that we have to get bogged down in that's very kind of jargon heavy and technical, the less of that we have to get through in order to figure out exactly what's happening, the better. Just kind of quickest way from point A to point B is a straight line, so
Yeah.
I would keep that in mind. Avoid like the spin, avoid the puffery. We don't need it. And really just let us also know the outcome. And that includes if it was not favorable. There's nothing wrong with providing us with information on losses if it speaks to the gravity of the case itself. You're not going to win
Right.
everyone, but just the fact is, it might have been a really newsworthy matter, and
Yeah.
you want to shout about it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned that you do. So we talked about submissions, but let's talk about interviews. How do you how do you determine who gets interviewed?
Well, it's first come, first serve. So you've got to get your booking in earlier, because there's going to come a certain point of the year, and this will historically be when the questionnaires are due. So late April, May, June, we're just we're really up against it. We're booked, wall to wall every day. So you want to, getting in earlier is more advantageous. We just have a little more time right now, a little more flexibility, I should say, with our time. And even if it's something that you want to schedule for later, a month or two away, just, get it on lockdown now. Just say, we want to look at XYZ dates. Can you book this for us?
And
Sure.
that all goes through you?
It goes through me or one of the staff.
Got it. Okay.
Depending on
So
depending
just
on our
request an
availability.
interview and do that early in the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the ones who are going to get prioritized are the ones who prioritize booking it. And then, of course, there are going to be, on our end, we're going to proactively prioritize certain firms that are going to be more targets for us. For instance, this particular year, we're going to be focusing on proactively getting in touch with firms in those metro areas that we're looking to diversify a bit in. And then there are just going to be certain firms that have been of real historical importance to us that we're going to proactively get a hold of as well. New York obviously has an advantage just because it's where we're based. And so, we have the ability to just regularly interface with these people with kind of a minimum of travel arrangements having to be made. Really, I mean, just kind of, but also here, calibrate your expectations as well. The reality is, if you book a certain date, book a certain time, and then for one reason or another, you're not able to make it, you get called out of town, you have a client meeting, you get sick, etc., and you're looking to reschedule, it may or may not happen. A reschedule is not always guaranteed at all. It really depends on our availability. So that's something.
And
also
tell me about those interview meetings. Is there anything you'd advise firms in terms of who should be in the meeting, how they should prepare for that meeting, anything like that?
Well, who should be in the meeting? It should be partners exclusively. And it should be the ones that you feel really stand a chance in being recognized by Benchmark, that you believe should stand. Now, these could be individuals who are already, established partners who are already being covered by Benchmark and continue to earn their keep. But it also should, if you want to include up-and-comers, do that as well. Some ones who may not be recognized by us yet, but you really feel are deserving of the coverage, then you would want to include that as well. All of that will speak to a level of succession and generational health, as it were. End of day, I mean, I can't really tell you who to invite and who not to, but those are the guidelines that I would advise adhering to. If you're going to set up an interview with, I hate to use this descriptor, but somebody who's maybe one of your more marginal players, just someone who's not necessarily, you can't say with confidence, should be recognized by us. I wouldn't waste their time or ours, just simply because it's if you don't believe that they're one of the key players within your firm, but it's just easy to get them in the room. I don't know that it's necessarily going to pay dividends. It might, but it's again, this is the same thing like fulfilling your questionnaire, and you're trying to choose the individuals and the work highlights. You want to exercise a bit of judiciousness about this, and a little bit of selectivity.
And tell me about those meetings. What are you trying to accomplish whenever you do these meetings? Are you taking the submission that they've provided and asking clarifying questions, or tell me a little bit about what you aim to achieve outside of what you've got in the submission in the interview?
Well, first of all, the interviews are not necessarily always tied to the submission. I mean, the submission is pretty much giving us everything we need in a flat, static data format. So if we were just talking about the submission, we don't really need to interview them. We're not, we might riff off that a little bit, but the reality is we're not really going to get into the weeds of the submission when we are interviewing the partners. What we're really looking for is we're looking for intel that we can't really get from that questionnaire, that we can't necessarily ascertain from a questionnaire. So we really want their commentary on their practice as a whole. And of course, the matters within the questionnaire might speak to that or illustrate that, but it's really, we're looking more for developments this year versus last year. Which is why we do which is why we conduct the interview process on a yearly basis, because the story might have changed, and we want to assess those changes. And we wouldn't necessarily get that from the questionnaire itself. We really need their commentary, and part of that includes who we're meeting with on a year-to-year basis. Is it the same team as last year, or is it? Are there new faces, new players, new recruits? Are there new practices that you're really trying to develop? That is something that we would not necessarily get from a questionnaire. But, if we can see it kind of demonstrated in person through a meeting, that's an ambition. Also, we're clearly going to be the peer review is a critical component of an interview. Partners can expect to have us look to satisfy that. And honestly, if they don't want to, then we have to, we have the right to decline to interview them, because it is going to be expected of them, to speak on their peers, speak on market trends, phenomena, how certain firms and practitioners are being affected by it. We want to get their insight as to who they're regularly interacting with, who they know reputationally, who they might have seen across from them. All of that is going to be, like I said, it's crucial to maintaining the integrity of all the content that we develop. So that is real. And then, of course, throughout the course of the interviews, we're really it's about engaging, really. It's about, Benchmark not just being an email that they're getting across their desk, right, that they can easily just kind of say, well, I don't really care about them, and I don't know if they really care about me. If we make a point of either lining up a video interview with you or meeting with you in person, especially, we're showing that we are interested. We're here to actually get to know you, and we want you to get to know us. So that kind of relationship building is also a critical component. I mean, I couldn't have developed Benchmark to what it is right now if I would have done it so just from my desk sending emails, because I don't do what they do. I'm not, I'm around them all the time, but I'm not of them. So in order for me to really learn this from the ground up, which is kind of what I had to do when I first started, I didn't have a choice. I had to just get out there and meet these people, and really just kind of soak up every piece of intel that I could extract from them like a sponge. So we continue to do that. I mean, it's kind of no matter how much I know, I'm never going to know everything. I'm never going to know everybody. You can't. I mean, it's a consistently evolving process, and so the meetings are about capturing that evolution.
So to go a 360 turn here, you guys obviously invest a lot of human capital and place a lot of emphasis on those in-person interviews. What about AI? How are you guys using AI at all? Do you have any plans to implement more AI in your review and research process?
Yeah, there's no dodging that bullet, is there?
I know. Sorry, I have to
It's
apologize before I ask
no.
it now.
Hey, listen. I can spell it. But look. The in terms of kind of how we're using AI. I mean, the short answer is we're not using it at present, not in any real measurable form. I know that's not the sexy answer, but it's the real one. I mean, look, no one's immune to it, right? So, I mean, I want to know about a particular case. I want to know about a particular lawyer that might be, really kind of newsworthy and so forth. You do a Google search, you get your AI summary overview right there at the top of the screen, and it does, so I use it for that, just kind of like I do with every other Google search. You got your AI overview right there at the top of the screen. But I don't take it as gospel. It's a starting point. It's just kind of like it's just a launching pad, and from there, I conduct my own research. Because I like I mentioned in the earlier question that we talked about is I think firms have really kind of come to value the human judgment and the analysis that we provide. At the end of yes, we are data driven, but at the end of the day, we're not statisticians, right? We're journalists. So if we were doing what we do through AI, I'm not sure what purpose we'd really serve.
Right.
There are people out there who have asked me, couldn't we just use AI to figure out, how many cases we've been involved in, et cetera. And, I guess you could, from a quantifiable standpoint, but that's not going to necessarily provide you with, the kind of candid peer review and the client review that we get. We get that through inquiry and research. And I feel like this has really become the value add. The partners that we speak with, I mean, they really do want to know what their peers and clients are saying about them. That I get that through these off the record chats that I have with them. So AI can do many things, but it can't generate those candid quotes. And I really feel like, in this particular industry, that's what people have come to rely on Benchmark for. Because they know that I get out there, and that, because they've seen me, they've either seen me or they've spoken with me. They know my name. So they know that this content that I'm getting is real. And it's generated, it's coming from the street. And I really feel like that's what they want. I really feel like that's the value add. Now,
that's your value proposition.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, how I would think about AI is really, I would turn the question over to the firms. How are you using it? Are you using it? How do you feel like it's affecting your industry? Obviously there are concerns about it. But there's promise there to it as well. I mean, it can facilitate a lot of really routine tasks that I'm sure many in the field would rather not be spending their precious time dealing with. But we've already actually been querying firms about this, novel enhancements that you've put into place to improve efficiency and client accountability through AI. I definitely feel in that field, AI has its place, because, in the conversations that I've had with in-house counsel, and when, I say conversations, but these are all written conversations. These are all written answers they provide me with. They are looking for greater accountability, greater transparency with billing, greater transparency in terms of human capital employed, headcount, and I think the demands are there from the clients to employ AI more to, like I said, facilitate some of these really routine, time-consuming tasks that probably take up a lot of headcount at law firms that the client has to pay for.
Yeah.
So, in terms of how we're thinking about AI and how we're using it, I mean, that's really how is we're kind of turning it back on the lawyers and saying, how are you using it?
Yeah.
How are you benefiting from it? What concerns do you have about it? We take that data and we have been kind of storing it because this is the type of thing where perhaps if Benchmark got together a speaking panel for leaders in the industry to discuss, maybe we want to call upon a particular practitioner who put forth a really novel illustration of how they're employing AI to improve efficiency and client accountability.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of Camp Benchmark, I mean, we're still old-fashioned
Focused
journalism.
on that human connection. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you've given me a lot of information. Is there anything that I haven't asked that I always like to ask this as my last question that I haven't asked that you think is important for firms to understand about this cycle or about Benchmark in general?
I'm trying to think. Well, I think something that is worth noting that is particularly, if there's any sort of bee in the bonnet about the legal rankings business, is that I guess the bugaboo in general is that it is a business, and that we got to make some bread in order to keep the lights on and pay my princely salary and facilitate my lavish lifestyle. Obviously, no shortage of sarcasm there, but the reality is, I mean, it is a business, and we need to we do need to keep our lights on in order to keep going. To be honest, if you view Benchmark as something valuable, we have people to answer to who are above us, who are just really all about the numbers. And, there's a certain commercial team within Benchmark, as there is within any organization, that's responsible for generating the revenue. However, I think there is a perception that's sort of plagues this industry, that they're linked, and that my decisions are going to be based upon who's dropping coin on us. And the reality is it's the reverse of pay to play. It's completely the opposite. I think by this point we've proven this several times over. So these days, I mean, they don't crop up as much, but they do occasionally still, I think they still kind of linger. I think more and more they've just sort of become forms of sour grapes from skeptics who worked for firms who may have been overlooked by us for one reason or another. And sometimes the sour grapes is not without justification. And like I said, we're looking to perhaps address that a bit this year with more personnel and more of a granular overview into the more of a granular probe into the jurisdictions But yeah. So if we overlook something, we always try in as close to real time as we can to address it. But there's always going to be, I feel like, the notion out there that's what we do is going to be tied. The winners are always going to be tied to frankly who sponsors what we do, and it's simply not the case. Now I understand why that perception exists out there. There are certainly some shady outfits out there that do indeed fit the pay to play description. But I would think that it would be easily enough to reveal who these fly by nights are because of how sloppy and indiscriminate some of them are. I mean, some of them have actually been exposed. Speaking of AI, some of them have actually been exposed as having directly appropriated my work.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but they got the data wrong. And it's just because they just have sloppy data matching, that they will take somebody I extrapolated upon as one of our top securities lawyers, and they'll say congratulations, you've won an award for antitrust partner of the year. It's like they didn't match their practice up. So it doesn't paint a very flattering picture of the whole industry as a whole. And so depending on how much of a cynic you are, they might misunderstand Benchmark as being amongst these. I would hope not these days. I would hope by this point we have managed to quash that perception and distinguish ourselves as being apart from that pack. But I feel like if there's anything out there that's if there's any kind of perception or misconception about Benchmark and the whole industry as a whole, is that that we are somehow influenced by or tied to the commercial aspect. And in fact, like I said, we work in reverse. I do my job, and then
that's what creates the value, right?
And then whatever content I turn over to our commercial team, whatever happens with it there is what happens with it.
Right.
But I don't know.
The value is in being independent and
absolutely. And I don't know what's going to, when I turn over my content, I don't know who's going to be sponsoring us and who isn't. I don't know that until the end of the cycle. When I get asked to do special features, and there's certain content that clearly is paid content, and those are only awarded to sponsors. But so only then, when I get asked to fulfill one of these things, is it obvious to me that this person actually came in or this entity came in and financially sponsored us. But I don't know on the front end. I have no way of knowing that on the front end. So
that's a good
I think that is
clarification.
I think that's a common misconception. And I guess the only other misconception about Benchmark is that we're kind of like a Chambers type operation. And the reality is I wish we were as well staffed as them. I definitely have staff envy there without question. I don't think people realize just how lean the Benchmark staff is. I mean, when I say that we've got 2 individuals now who are on staff besides me, I mean, that's an unprecedented development.
Yeah.
It's just something that, I literally feel like we actually have something of a team this year, but obviously it's a fraction of what else is out there, that's is being offered by much larger organizations with a lot more infrastructure and a lot more kind of historical global reach. So I think that's a misconception as well.
Congratulations for getting that extra team and for really achieving the reputation that you have. So, and thank you for joining me. So we have been talking to Michael Rafalowich. I'm pronouncing that correct?
You are indeed.
Oh, good. Of Benchmark Litigation. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you for enhancing my reputation through this.
Good.
I mean, it doesn't happen without without others getting the word out. And actually, I mean, when I do what I do, I publish it, and I don't know where it goes until, or how it's working, until I get out there and people tell me, and they give me their testimonials, and they give me a platform like this. So
awesome.
Appreciate.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.